I came across a little story about a priest out in Africa, and as often happens in Africa, you live in a mission station, and then you have a number of outside stations also to look after. And this priest had a little generator to provide some electricity and light for the church and for the little house in which he lived. And then one day, some people came from one of the outside missions, and they were absolutely fascinated when he clicked the switch on the wall, and a light came on. And one of the visitors asked him, could they have a bulb? And so he gave them a spare bulb. He thought they were looking for it as a little souvenir or a little bauble or something like that. And imagine his surprise when a couple of weeks later he visited the outlying mission and went into the hut of the man who had asked for the bulb, and he saw it hanging down from the hut with a piece of twine. But there was no light. Why? Because it wasn't connected. And that's what the gospel is about this morning. And so I got a question for you, and be honest. Which would you prefer, a friend who was always right, or a friend who was in right relationship? I think I know the answer. Which would you prefer, a friend who was always right, or a friend who was connected? And I think I know your answer. And I presume you have come across people who are always right, never wrong, and they're a veritable pain in the, whatever you want to say, and also are obnoxious. And maybe, I don't know, maybe you're married to one. Oh, yeah. Now, on that subject of being connected, something, and I think I know why, something I have been aware of all my life ever since I became a priest, and something I love seeing and being with, is couples who are connected. Couples who are connected. And at the beginning of Mass, while the readings were going on and so on, I was looking down the church, and I saw a number of couples here who were absolutely glued. That to me is something beautiful and gives me great courage. You don't have any idea of how encouraging that is to me, to see couples like that. There's some on my left at the moment and some on my right. Beautiful. And so, going back then to the gospel this morning, if you would prefer to have a friend who was in right relationship and connected, why do we change when we apply that to God? Where did God say, where did Jesus say, in order to be in right relationship with me, you've got to be always right? Where did he say that? He never said that. But where did we get the idea that God will only love me and only accept me if I never do anything wrong. Give me a break. Honestly. But some of us have lived with that all our lives. And we go around carrying enormous burdens on our shoulders. I meet it so often in confession. People come to confession time and time again, professing something they did 50 years ago. And I say to them, have you confessed it before? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well, do you not believe God forgives you? God doesn't expect you to be perfect. To be human is to fail. And when I look back on my life, and I'm sure if you look back on your life, don't you find that you never learned a thing from your successes? And some of us strive all our lives to be successful, to be independent. And at the end of life, don't leave. There's nothing wrong with a baby crying. Come back. Come back and sit down. Children are very welcome, and I'm delighted you brought him or her. I can't distinguish from here. But you come back, relax. Isn't it much better to hear a little baby crying than to hear, So you're very welcome. Come and sit down and relax. Sorry about that. No, I'm not sorry. So where was I? It'll come back in a minute. No, don't worry. Yeah. I just got my train of thought back now. Don't worry about that. Just a temporary pause in the intermission. Yeah, right. So I find in my own life, and I'm sure when you look back on your life, that I never learned anything from my successes were few and far between. But believe me, I've had many failures in my life. I've been down there many times, and but for them, I wouldn't be as happy and where I am today in my life. And it's when you're down on your knees and you've done things wrong and you feel you're a failure and you come to the Lord. How beautiful. And that brings me back to my time in the seminary. I was about 2 years in the seminary, so I was in or about 20 years of age. And for the first time, I came across this lovely reading from chapter 15 in the Gospel of John, and I've never forgot that. I am the vine and you are the branches, and especially without me you can do nothing. And so the most important thing is to be connected to the Lord, to be in relationship with Jesus, not to be always perfect and always right. That's so, but we seem not able to get that into our head or into our heart. Have you ever heard a politician saying, "I was wrong"? Honestly, I think we'd faint if we heard that. They're never wrong. Super people. And even when they're caught flagrante delicto, or a literal interpretation of that would be with their pants down, they're still never wrong. It wasn't me. Well, who the hell was it? It wasn't me. So, I mean, when are we going to get that? When are we going to be able to admit? You see, I think we've got to realize, go back to the real definition of original sin. And original sin the real definition is that we were born, we were created with an inherent weakness, with a little flaw. And that's why we make mistakes. That's why we do things wrong. Because we weren't born in sin. We were born with an inbuilt, so to speak. It's part of our DNA to at times get it wrong. And finally, how comfortable would be a good way of putting it. How comfortable are you with saying, I'm sorry and I ask you to forgive me? Do you find that almost impossible to say? How comfortable are you with that? I am sorry and I ask you to forgive me. It's so freeing when you do that. Absolutely freeing. To be able to say, I'm sorry and I ask you to forgive me. Years and years ago, when I was involved in a marriage encounter, something I never forgot. I came across this beautiful couple, and they shared with me something they did every night since the day they got married. And it was every night when they went to bed, he turned to his wife and he said, honey, if in any way by what I said or done today I offended you, I ask you to forgive me. And then she turned to him and said, my love, if there's any way in which anything I said or did today that I offended you, I ask you to forgive me. How beautiful. So you and I need to be connected to the constant gardener, which would be a nice way of describing Jesus. The constant gardener who every moment takes care of us and looks after us, is aware of our faults, doesn't hold them against us as long as we are connected. And it's much more important to be connected rather than to be right.